you've read through or nearly finished the Gospels. Woe unto you, Chorazin. Woe unto you, Bethsaida. Because the miracles that were done in your town, and yet there's been no change in you. He comes to his own. They don't receive it. Familiarity, what's the statement? Breeds contempt. Are we so familiar with being in a place, oh, this is a holy moment, and we know this is God's movement, but is that movement changing us? Oh, it was a great service. God was there. It's not measuring whether God was there, it's measuring what change happened to you as a result of you being there with God. Has there been a change? And he tells you that this is not a good place to be. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. When you see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, notice, everybody's going to be there.
All the old timers.
Everybody. We're going to meet them all. There's nobody recorded in this book that we're not going to meet, and we're going to meet a whole lot of other folks that are not recorded in the book. But here we'll meet them all. But yourselves being thrown out. And they'll come from the east and the west and the north and the south, and will recline at table in the kingdom of God. So you can't just say, well, I showed up. You've got to examine yourself. What did Sunday do to you? What did that sermon do to you? Not just something to quote to somebody else. Not to get the tape to hand to somebody else. Man, this was a good one. What happened to you in relationship to God? If all you do is take a class to fill up a notebook, Lord help you. I don't take this class when I consider myself taking the class with you. I don't take this class and not expect God to dig at my heart. I want to see something happen to me in this class. There's a cost involved. And of course, Jesus lays it out simply as he can for us. Large crowds were going along with him. And he turned and said to them, notice again, this is a turnaround deal. Remember we saw this in John 6. Everybody's, you want to leave? You want to go too? Here, the large crowd. Isn't this what we want? Don't you expect God says, oh, we now have a multitude following him. He turns around, says to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and child and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Do we expect Jesus to act like this? Or is this a different Jesus that we're accustomed to having a contact with? He lets us know this is not an easy thing. Don't begin this process and be deceived that this is so easy. He cannot be my disciple unless there's a radical change in relationship to him. I love my wife. But if it comes to my obedience to Jesus and her, she's left. And the same thing with her. Because the relationship is that radical. There is nothing as important as your relationship to Almighty God. Even when it involves dealing with yourself. You cannot accept that's just the way I am. God, it doesn't matter, you made me that way. No! We have to even deal with our own life. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me. You realize the image? You've got to pick it up, and now you're carrying it and following him. And you're not in leading where that road is. He cannot be my disciple. And then he gives you something to tie all of this on. For which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost? Now, if you haven't sat down and tried, you say, I want to build a tower, and you haven't started thinking about how to do it, and you start laying something before you've thought about it, forget it. You have to make plans first. He's letting you know you have to engage before you enter this. This is why the first church, when we look at the church that Acts and beyond started, and you start looking at the early church history, they did not accept the person as a believer before they really understood what they were getting into. They wouldn't let them get communion. They didn't let them get baptized right away. They wanted to make sure they understood something about what they were getting into. And then they wanted it or they didn't. I'm thanking God that there are a number of real things being produced now to help the Christians see the first church. Perpetua, they have with Voice of the Martyrs, I believe, had put out a series of cartoon presentations for children. But beyond that, they have the whole history of these people to help children understand the dynamics of being a Christian and what does it mean. That it means your death. And that may be literal. So here, you don't try to build anything before you sit down and figure out what it's going to cost. Because if you start something, you haven't got the money to finish it, it's going to be left undone. Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who observe it will begin to ridicule him, saying, this man began to build and is not able to finish. Do you realize what that says to your Christian walk, that you start something and don't finish it? And then he brings it one step further. That's just visible stuff. When you're engaged in battle, what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down to consider whether he is strong enough with 10,000 men to encounter the one coming against him with 20,000? You don't engage with a battle unless you have sized up your enemy. Because if your enemy is just overpowering you and you can't match it, it's time to say, let's talk peace terms. You don't even begin to fight. You send out a delegation in terms of peace. So then none of you, notice how emphatic this is, none of you can be my disciple who does not give up how much? All. Remember, it's not yours at all. It's never been ours. That's the illusion. The illusion is that you own it. You don't. Somebody's going to be wearing your clothes, driving your car, eating what you store up when you leave here. Is that a lie? Nope. That's the truth. So he's letting you know, don't get hung up on stuff in relationship to him. Therefore, salt is good, but if the salt has become tasteless, are you going to put it on your steak? Nope, it's useless. And the phrase, I'm going to tell you what that phrase, he who has ears, let him hear. That phrase in the Greek is a continuous. Let him continue to hear if you've already begun hearing. You don't stop hearing once you start. You continue to keep hearing. That's the Greek behind that. We must do the works of God. And you say, okay, I got to move mountains and all of that. Right? If we would think about what is to do the work of God, let's do the work of God. We're going to create. We're going to speak things into existence. We're going to change the realities around us. We're going to do the work of God. And it's mind-boggling to see what he says. Therefore they said to him, what shall we do so that we may work the works of God? What can we do? And guess what it is? This is the work of God. That you what?
Believe in him.
Oh, believing is a work. It takes all of your energy to continue to believe in God. Everything fights your believing in God, doesn't it?
Yes.
You're in this class, hearing this, and your belief system is being challenged. Will you believe God in this? That's the work. To continue to believe in God when everything else is telling you no. Once you've heard or you understand what God has told you and it is clearly identified and absolutely certain in His Word, you have to place your entire life on that what He states. And that's work. This we covered. They found it hard. You must eat my body. This is the same passage we covered in detail way back in John 6. It turns around and says, do you want to leave too? They said, who can handle this stuff? We're still there, aren't we? How can we handle this? This is hard. To be Jesus' disciple, we must abide in His words. We've covered that before too. Staying in His words. If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine.
Question.
Yes.
When it says continue in my word, what exactly, is that just obeying, the word says this, and then it's obedience to that word?
Well, what do you think of continuing in when you think about it? How do you see this? How do you see this if you continue in my words? If Jesus just threw that at you, what do you think He's telling you?
That if He said something, it's an instruction on continuing to act on what He's told me.
Perfect. The first thing is you have to be willing to hear it. If you lack understanding, don't walk out of the room. Right? This was the smart thing about the disciple. I didn't understand that one. Could you explain this? If you go back to the sower and the seed and the various accounts and the good soil, they understood. That's a part of the process of the soil being good. How we continue in something, whether we hold it to continue in something, is that you're going to have a continued interaction with it. We just can't hear God's words once and just let it go. Continuing in something It does.
Never ends.
My wife is gained a discipline in getting up and reading her Bible. And I don't think I'm saying wrong. There's not a love, but you get up and discipline and get in the Word. She is disciplined. She is more disciplined than I am. Much more. But she is disciplined with that. And what happens is that if there's a time when it doesn't happen, there's something missing. Because it becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of you. The great thing about our lives is that activities take on an unconscious ability to continue something once it's done enough. You put on your socks or stockings the same leg every day, but you don't even realize it. You don't. There's certain activities you do that become so naturally a part of your life because of the practice.
Like breathing.
Breathing. You don't think about breathing unless you're an asthmatic. Then you think about breathing. But most of us don't have those problems. But activities, once they are established patterns, are hard to disrupt because our life goes along with that. I heard a statement with the soldiers coming back and their lives are so disrupted because they said, I didn't know what to do. They get in the military and everything is regimented. 8 o'clock, 8:10, 8:20, you're on target here. And then you get out and there's nobody telling you at 8:15 what to do. And some people have a real hard time with that. They didn't learn, well, let me keep that pattern. If they learned to keep the pattern, they may not have gotten disrupted, but they needed the sergeant. Think about God like that. God can get you in the pattern, but He's not always ready to sit and yell at you to get you to do stuff. Because that shows you haven't gotten it yet. That's like your child trying to, you get them up for school, you get them up for school, you get them up for school, and then one day you wait, see if they get up for school. And you find out they don't have the pattern yet. Right? Now, here, my life is going on with the Lord. This is 38 years. Should I have a pattern? I should hope so. Should there be certain things in my life at this point? I should hope so. That's like being 38 and not potty trained. That's something wrong with that. Right? You don't expect to try to feed yourself and spill all over yourself like you did when you were 2 months. Right? When I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child, but when I got into maturity, I put away childish things. It dawned on me, I don't know if it dawned on you, I don't brush my teeth for my mother, I don't brush my teeth for my dentist, I brush my teeth because I want to keep my teeth. Has nothing to do with someone else. It clicked. Something should happen to us as we mature. God expects the same thing. That's why He can expect fruit. Because if you're doing what He says, He produces the fruit. But if we only read our Bibles or find them on Sunday mornings to show up in church, I don't understand Christianity not being an everyday thing. And we've given the illusion that we can do it just on Sunday morning. Somehow that illusion has gotten over. That Jesus is something that kind of peppers your weekend. Put a little spice on Sunday morning for the rest of the week. And the relationship with Him is not an everyday thing. That can't be what He died for. If that's His state of His church, something is definitely wrong. So abiding, continuing in His Word. Then you're truly His. Another passage in Matthew. And the disciples came to the other side of the sea. And they'd forgotten to bring any bread. Do you remember this? They had already seen 5,000 fed, and they've seen 4,000 fed. I mean, this is major miracles, right? I'm not talking about just feeding your household. I'm talking about a whole bunch of people being fed. And they are now discussing they got no bread. You get the picture? Now they're worried about, we didn't bring any bread. And He starts trying to teach them about leaven. Let me read the passage. And the disciples came to the other side of the sea, but they had forgotten to bring any bread. And Jesus said to them, watch out for the... Now you see, they didn't mention this to Jesus, and Jesus wasn't concerned about the bread. Would Jesus be concerned about the bread if He could multiply it? No. So when He was mentioning leaven, it had nothing to do with bread. Watch out for the leaven. Beware, watch out and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they began to discuss this amongst themselves, saying, He said that because we didn't bring any bread. That's how obtuse we are. How we just don't get it. Jesus is trying to give us a real truth, and we're down, not even comprehending what He's saying. But Jesus, aware of this, said, little faith, you men of little faith, why do you discuss amongst yourselves that you have no bread? Now get it. They've just seen Him do this. Bread is no longer an issue of their concern. Shouldn't be. By now, after seeing this much bread be multiplied, you're taking home baskets full, and you're still worrying about what? Bread. Now you understand the statement, oh, you little fakes. Do you not yet understand or remember that the 5 loaves of 5,000, fed 5,000, and the many baskets full you picked up? You picked them up. Or the 7 loaves and the 4,000? And how many large baskets? That's why He had them involved with handing it out. So that they would participate in this and get a grip. The one I'm dealing with has power to do all of this. How is it that you do not understand that I did not speak to you concerning bread, but beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees? Then they understood. He wasn't talking about that. He was talking about their teaching. You see, what is of much more concern is what's going in your ear, not what goes in your mouth. And we are so quick to put too much in our ears and in our understanding, thinking that everything on the Christian television is something we need to be exposed to. Maybe. Maybe not. Every new book that's out there. Maybe. Maybe not. We have to be careful and beware of what we expose ourselves to. And this is why He says, if you abide in what? My word. He's already told you what to abide in. Be a master of the Bible, not a master of somebody else's teachings. always be able to find it in the book.